Welcome to Motivational Monday. I am your host, Aaron, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about none other than going to war with yourself. Now, what do I mean by going to war with yourself? Going to war with yourself is a concept that I hear mainly, it's thrown out there in the motivational ether. It is. And it's one of those things that you hear David Goggins say, like, go to war with yourself. It's a fancy way of saying you kind of have to challenge your inner psyche and your inner brain. Now, to be honest with you, it's a fancy kind of thing to say, and it sounds cool, so I'm just going to use it. So, going to war with yourself, I would almost even consider it into the locking in category. Locking in is mainly what's used in nowadays. When I was coming up into the motivational scene myself about 3 years back, I ultimately fell in love with the David Goggins method because he would sit there and talk about going to war with yourself in a way that was super interesting. And it was something that I needed at that particular time, having a little bit of anxiety issues and just kind of being just lazy all the time, just being lazy. Ultimately, having that mindset of going in there and challenging yourself and trying to push through that and get out of its psyche was great. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about here in today's episode. I'm going to be using real world people that will kind of go to war with themselves and use it in a fun, exciting way. And I'm going to be dramatic. I do want to prepare an additional warning. I did have a American Dew today with 91 milligrams of caffeine. So I'm going to be off the charts. This is going to be fun. So you guys better tune in. You guys better put this is going to really jazz you up on Monday. I'm filming this on Sunday, June 28th, 1 year since Ilia Topuria beat Charles Oliveira. Just had to throw that out there. I'm a big UFC fan as well, but just to kind of have that little precursor, and I just thought of that, and I just threw it out there. I'm kind of this is what happens when I get 91 milligrams of caffeine. I'm off the wall. I don't know. I'm going 50 different directions, but let's kind of keep it on the straight and narrow here. So going to war with yourself is something extremely useful, and it's really kind of a day-to-day thing. I know that it is something where going to war would be fighting against what you kind of don't want to do, is how I kind of put it into terms where, let's say you get up and you don't want to go on a walk, or you don't want to go on a run, or you don't want to lift weights, or you don't want to do the things that you want to do. Now it's an internal battle. It's an internal dialogue, and you're fighting yourself. And that is what life is in my eyes. Life is not player versus player as it is acclaimed to be. Life is you versus you at the end of the day. I've looked at the motivational scene, and I kind of look at it. I feel like it's a little bit negative. I feel like it's a lot of negative, and there were certain people out there pushing certain things that at a certain time I enjoyed, and then the more I got older, the more I did things, it became more of, I kind of don't like that method of, it's like I need to look at what somebody else has and discredit my own self and where I'm at. And that is where going to war with yourself is so important, because it's not a you versus somebody else. You don't need to look across the aisle and be like, this person has that, this, and that. I want to go to war with them. This is a go to war with your own self. And the reason that this is so important is because we live in a day and age where you can get on Instagram, you can get on Facebook, you can get on TikTok, you can get on Snapchat, you can get on YouTube, you can get on wherever you want to get on, and you can see somebody doing better than you. And for some people, they have kind of a negative mindset where they are maybe jealous, envious, and they feel that they deserve better. And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to claim how you feel and your opinions or anything like that. What I'm strictly saying is it's very easy to get on these social media apps and look at the person across from you and think they have it better than you do, which that is not the case. And that is where going to war with your mind and you versus you is so important, and it should be preached more. I in the motivational ether, I don't see people talking about it that much. The only thing I do see, and I do see it in a lot of mixed martial arts, being a mixed martial arts fan, being a UFC fan that I am, I do see people like, I want to go out there and I want to perform the best that I can do. Justin Gaethje won June 14th, 2026, was June 15th because it was at 1 o'clock in the morning, but he fought on the UFC White House event. He fought one of my favorite fighters, Ilia Topuria, and he went out there and he beat Ilia Topuria, stopping him in the 4th round due to a retirement on the stool. I almost wanted to say doctor stoppage, but it was retirement on the stool. He retired on the stool, but the way that he thinks, he's like, I just go out there and I try to do the best that I can do. And being a Topuria fan, but seeing that inspiration that he went out on the White House lawn and he went out there and did that thing, I felt nothing but, excitement for him. And it felt, being a Topuria fan, it sucks. It was brutal loss, but it was a great thing for him because he went out there and did what he wanted to do and won the belt that he's been going after for years. So it was a really good win, and it was really interesting, but it was interesting hearing him say that, the way Topuria was talking and the way that I was thinking is, I know I could lose this fight, and I'm pushing myself to go out there. And even in the Ferguson fight, he's like, I push myself to go out there and do the best that I can do. He's not going out there in the mindset saying, I'm going to try to go out there and try to do what Ilia Topuria does and try to knock Topuria out in the first round. In his mind, he's like, this is where I'm good at. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out there and perform the best that I can do. And that to me really resonated with me because it's hard in today's life. It's hard with all the social media and everything going around to look across the aisle and look at what somebody else has and feel upset and dejected within your own self. Now, for me personally, I look at what people have accomplished as motivation for myself. I look at Ilia Topuria, and that's why I'm such a big fan of him, is the things he was able to accomplish, the way that he spoke, the way that he presented himself as a super confident, Conor McGregor-esque, indestructible, undefeated fighter, where it was the confidence, it was the swagger, it was the way he knew he was going to go out there and knock out Charles Oliveira in 1 round, and then he went out there and did it. He manifested it for himself, and it was super inspirational, especially if you know his story coming from Georgia, where it's a war-torn country. He had to go from Georgia, I believe, to Germany. He might have been born in Germany, but he's Georgian. And there was a war-torn country. He might not have survived if he stayed there because of the war going on. And he went from there not being able to be with his parents. I might butcher the story a little bit, but I believe at 5 years old, they stayed in Georgia and he went on to Germany because of that war. And seeing him, just know and hearing him, especially with McGregor as well on the come up, of all these different things, it's super inspirational. It was inspirational hearing from Gaethje as well, especially the work that he's put in and the things that he's done in this game, where 2 years earlier, he was face down on the canvas against Max Holloway. 2 years later, he's the world champion. He beat Ilia Topuria pound for pound number 2, arguably could have been pound for pound number 1. So I look at what people have done, and I look at that, whoa. I look at that as an inspiration in my life, where I look at Justin Gaethje, I'm like, wow, Justin Gaethje, and that is really, it's inspirational. He went out there against the odds, 6-1 underdog, went out there, beat my favorite fighter. I can't knock him. I can't sit there and be like, you know what, F him. He went out there and did what he needed to do, and he did it on the White House lawn, and beat him decisively, got hurt in the second round, came back and won. So I look at things like that and I use that as inspiration within my own life. But I look at inspiration and I take positivity. I don't want to take the negativity. I don't want, Justin, because you could sit there and be like, Justin Gaethje, he didn't deserve it. I'm much more deserving than he is. Whatever, like I could have taken it that way, but I try to take things that I see other people do and I change that into motivation. And that's where it all comes down to here. Now I'm trying to lay the blueprint out here of what it's like in the sense of nowadays, where you look at what other people have and you feel upset within your own life, where you can look across the aisle and you may see somebody that's maybe doing better than you. And what I want to say to that is I don't know what's going on with somebody else's life. I don't know what's going on with Jeffrey. I don't know what's going on with whoever. He might have the Ferrari, the Porsche. He might look like he has it all, but who knows what's going on in the war up here? What's going on up here with him? Maybe he's got all these things and he's super unhappy. He lost the things. Maybe you have a great family. Maybe you have wife and kids. Maybe that guy didn't have the opportunity to have wife and kids and he wants to have a wife and kids. But, he spent his whole time going after money and now he's unhappy, but you want to be where he is. So, there was a great thing, and there's a great thing going on Instagram where it would be like the man walking looks at somebody with the bike, and the man on the bike wishes he had a bus ticket, and the guy on the bus ticket wish he had a car, and the guy that has a car wish he had the Ferrari, and it kind of went down there. And then the guy walking, I did it in reverse, but the guy walking, there's a guy in a wheelchair that wishes he could walk. Then there's a guy in the wheelchair wishing he could move. You know what I mean? So it's like, when you put things in those perspective, if you don't really know what's going on behind somebody's brain, and that's why I look at it as try to improve each and every day. That's the goal. And that is where I think you get true fulfillment in, is where you sit there and you look at yourself and you look at things that maybe you do well or maybe you don't do well. Where I do this and I don't want to do that. I do that and I don't want to do that. It's one of those things where it is it's never you versus somebody else. It's always you versus you at the end of the day. It's always you versus you at the end of the day. And you can choose to look at the negativity or you can choose to look at the positivity. Now, what is the war? What is it? The war is sitting there and doing the things that you don't want to do and battling your brain. That is really what it is. And it's you constantly battling, where this has been in the works. This podcast, I've been working on this for about a year. And it's taken me delay after delay after delay after delay after delay. And the things didn't happen the way that I wanted them to happen, which that's going to be another episode of Motivational Monday. I have so many of the Motivational Mondays. I've thought about this so much and so long, but I could never just sit down and do it. And now I'm here right now and I'm looking at you guys. I'm looking at people that are going to watch this, and I'm just like buzzing with energy. I'm so excited. This has been something I've wanted to do, and I just wasn't getting around to doing it. And that is the war within, is I had a long week. That's what I'm thinking. I've had a long week. I've done this. I've done that. I struggled this week. It wasn't my best week. I don't think I'm going to do the video today. But there's something inside, and there's something inside me. And I'm not saying this to try to act cool. Like, I'm being serious. Like, there's something in there. I need to work on this. I need to work on it. And I've created that. And you create and you overcome your own self with the discipline, with locking in. My first episode of this was going to be locking in, but I feel like going to war with yourself is a little bit more important. It sounds a little bit cooler, and it draws that parallel. I'm sure you've seen those edits of where it's like, who's the next person? It's you versus you, and it's so genius because it's so true. Because nobody is going to come and get me on here to do the podcast. My mom's not going to come do it. My dad's not going to do it. Nobody is going to physically be able. They might physically set it all up and drag me over here, but nobody is going to do it unless you do it. And that's a big part of the story here. And this is what I always say. You can have so many people support you. You can have so many things going in the corner, whatever the case may be. I'm kind of just waffling at this point, but I've always kind of thought, and I've always kind of said, like, no matter what, if you can't help yourself, there's really nobody that can help you, because there's going to be people that can try to drag you along, but unless you're willing, it's not going to work. You have to be willing to want to battle yourself, battle with inside your own mind to go and get the things that you want to get. And that's all it is. That's all it is at the end of the day. That person that you're looking at, you should, in my mind, it's like, man, that guy went over there. I'm wondering what he did to get in that position. I wonder what he did to get in that position. And then you can network. You could change the negative and turn it into a positive really easily. You can sit there and be like, oh, this 20-year-old's doing this and that. I'm 20. So if I'm like, oh, this 20-year-old's doing this and that. But it's like, who knows what their position is? Who knows what they've been through to be where they are? Who knows where, you don't know where I've been through to get to where I'm at now. You know what I mean? So it's always a perspective thing, and it's different for everybody. But you can sit there and think that person went to war with themselves. That person went inside their psyche and fought every inch and tooth and nail to overcome the things that they had to overcome to get where they wanted to get to. That's why I'm such a big sports fan, and I love sports. And I love, like I said about earlier, Taporia. Look at McGregor. McGregor was supposed to be a plumber. He was supposed to be in the trade. And he was like, it really wasn't for me. That's what I was going to do. I was going to not be a plumber, but I wanted to do air conditioning. And I was like, you know what? I really want to give this podcast thing a try. I know I'm entertaining. And I'm not saying that to, be like smug. It's that it's a self-belief. It's a self-belief. And when you can verbally speak it and have verbal persuasion, where I know I'm an entertaining guy. I just am. I'm not saying that again to just sound, self-conceited, even though I am. But, at the end of the day, it's also, I know how entertaining I am. I know if I put my mind and I put all my chips in on this thing, I can make it happen. I know I can do it. So I don't have like a little bit of like, oh, I've had caution 100%, but I have to battle that. And that's something you have to battle. So to kind of look at a war within, where would you start? Like, let's say if you're just baseline, you don't know what you want to do. You don't know, like I don't have motivation. And it's really not a motivational thing. It's a discipline thing. Discipline overrides the motivation every day of the week, because not every day you're going to want to get up and go do something. You have to fight every inch to go get what you want to get. You have to fight every inch. To put it in perspective, do you get up and don't want to go to work that day, but you get up and go do work every day because you have bills to pay? Yeah, you do. That's what it is. That's that internal conflict. Because you could sit there and be like, man, I'll quit. I'll find a new job some other time. Whatever else. Doesn't matter. Or you get up and you go to work anyway, even though you don't want to. So that is kind of the main thing here with this. And where would as I was saying, if you are at just the baseline, I'll give you a little bit of a gestalt about myself. So I was a guy who was riddled with anxiety a little bit early on. I think I teased that early on in this video, where I was a guy that had anxiety. I don't know what happened. One day I just started getting nervous over dumb stuff, and there became a point in my life where I go, this is really starting to annoy me. I don't get to go out there and I don't get to enjoy the things that I enjoy. I don't get to do the things that I want to do because for some reason I'm nervous all the time, and I don't know why. And I told you how I got into the David Goggins stuff. I started running, I started lifting weights, and that helped with a confidence thing. So if I felt nervous because I'm like, oh, I don't really fit in, well, then I start working out, then I start lifting weights, then I start feeling good about my own self. You obviously have to get rid of a little bit of the negative self-talk as well and get a little bit more positive self-talk. And then you kind of build up from there. So if I was to give anybody a baseline on how to get disciplined, how to do anything, I would start by working out. Whether you just want to walk, whether you just want to run, whether you just want to, I don't know. It's with anything really. If you want to start a sport, an activity, whatever the case may be, the discipline comes involved. And that's where I would say you learn the discipline. That is where the start of it, because I started working out, started getting more confident, and now I'm working out 5-6 days every week. And that just became a regimen. It might not look like it just from base down, but I was a skinnier guy. I was about 120 when I started, and then I started lifting weights. Then I became 140. I was 138 for a while. Now I'm 142. So I've, just increased. And it's a slow, steady process, but that's where the discipline comes in. And that's where I would say a baseline is perfect to start with. If that's not your thing, you could start with anything. You could start with reading a book. You could start with anything. And once you learn this, and once you're able to kind of learn how to disassociate, even though you don't want to do it, you do it anyway, you can pretty much do anything. And that is really at the end of the day, the best thing that you can learn is, even though you don't want to do it, you do it anyway, because you set yourself to that standard. It just becomes automatic. You're like, oh, don't want to do it, but you do it anyway. It becomes an automatic thing. Like, I've started I started working out, and it's a good building block. You can start 1 day a week, then you go 2, then you go 3, then you go 4, then you can go 5. Then you can kind of just fill it in from there. Where for me, even though there's days where I want to take a rest day, and this is bad, like there's days when I'm like physically exhausted. I'm like, oh, I can barely, I just feel tired. There's just the discipline and the consistency that I've done it at. Like, I feel like I am, like I didn't do anything. I feel there's like a sense of energy with me. I get upset when I don't work out, or I don't do something that I said I was going to do, where I know my regimen each and every day. It's up here. I don't have to write it down. I don't have to do anything. I know, here's my to-dos list. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go do this. That's it. And then obviously now filming will add that in there. Now I know where I need to do everything. So my mindset and my kind of thing is that, and I'm not even trying to sound, particularly like, oh, but it becomes such a natural thing. Like, where you brush your teeth, where you take a shower, it becomes so in tuned with you. That's what working out is for me. That is what I like to walk. That's what walking is for me. That is what these things have become. They've become a part of my routine and my lifestyle, to a point where when I don't do it, even if I'm like, oh, I'm feeling really tired, I go ahead and sometimes I do it, and it's a detriment to myself. But there's something in here where it won't let me not do it. And I'm not sure, again, I'm not trying to sound like, oh, I'm being honest. Like, there's a point in there where I'm like, legitimately, like, I remember, let me put it in perspective here, other than it being a rest day, let me put it in perspective where I would be like tired. And I'm like, oh, I don't really feel like I want to work out. I'm not going to do it. And then I'm sitting there. I know what time I usually work out. That time's starting to creep up, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do it. Then I just get myself up and I go ahead and do it, and I feel better. Because sometimes you just have like a tired-y drain because you're not doing anything. Your body's not moving. You're not getting that heart rate up. And there's that kind of, you get those kind of days. I'm sure it's happened to everybody where you just kind of feel lazy, but then you do it. Like, it's kind of hard to explain. It's like you're tired in that moment, and then as soon as you go work out and you start lifting the weights, you start to get some energy. Like, your body just needed to get up and moving and not be in that lazy mind space. You need to get up and start moving and start being active. Then that body and that muscle memory just kicks in, and then you feel great. Like, I could say some of the best workouts are when you don't want to work out and you go ahead and do it anyway. There's a feeling within yourself, like you feel a little bit better about yourself. It's an accomplishment. You're like, you know what? I said I wasn't going to do it today because I didn't feel up to it. That's kind of what I mean. When I said rest day, I meant that I usually end up taking the rest day, but there's still something in me that's pulling me to go do the things that I need to do. But I mean, like, if I just feel lazy or tired or unmotivated, and that's where motivation is really, I call it Motivational Monday as just something to get people up and going, and that's what it is. But motivation is really just a non-existent thing. It's here one day and it's gone the next. Discipline is where it's here every day and you do it no matter how you feel, unless, there's certain different things. You're injured, you need a rest day because there becomes a point where if you're so exhausted or you're so injured or you're so sick that you can't lift the weights or whatever the case may be, where it's like, it's going to be dangerous if you do it, obviously you should stop. But I'm saying a day where you just don't feel up to it, you go ahead and you do it anyway, you feel a sense of accomplishment and a little bit better about your own personal mindset. And that's where the battling comes in. This is the important part where you have to battle the things that you are. Now, on top of this, you're battling yourself. So if you want, how I would do it is look at last year. We're into June. Maybe look at last month, just because. But I want to put it in perspective of a year for my own self because that's how I view it. So I view myself, I was super locked in 2023. I was locked in. I was sick of the anxiety. 2024 came around. I needed to graduate. I was not on pace to graduate because I wasn't taking it seriously. Long story short, I ended up graduating. And then in that 2024 span, from June to January of 2025, just kind of a lazy character. I still was lifting weights, but I wasn't walking. I wasn't being active. And I know what it is, Aaron. What is your obsession with walking? What is it? For me, it's because not every day I want to get up and go take a walk. But it trains that mind to get up. And I enjoy it too because it's fresh air. You're not on the phone the whole time. So it's like I'm listening to music, but I'm not like glued to the phone doing everything. So it takes me away from that. It's fresh air. I enjoy it. It gets you out. You're listening to good music. It's a vibe. It's a positive energy. Kind of refreshes you. It's active recovery, so it's not going to be too crazy strenuous on your body like a run would be. But where was I at? This is where, see, I'm bouncing all around, but I'm lost. I don't know where I'm at. Where was I at? Okay. I'm completely off track. I'm going to leave this in. This is so you know that unscripted is legit because I'm just bouncing from here, bouncing from there, off the wall. It's the caffeine that got to me. Okay. I look at this. I had to close the eyes to really visualize where I was at. So I look at it as in a battle of the year. I look at 2024 was lazy. 2025, let's come back. Let me get back to the things I did, and I did. And I felt great. And now this year I've still done those things, but mentally I haven't felt quite the same that I was in 2025. So it's a battle, and you're battling yourself. And something I realized as well along this journey is you can take motivation where I'm like, man, I want to get back into that 2025 zone again. But then I'm like, I'm a different person now. That isn't the same version of Aaron that is here today. I've gone through much more. I've had much more things happen to me. My experiences have changed me. And that is something I also wanted to attach onto this as well is the 2025 or you can look back at who you were, but for me, I'm trying to go back and be that version of myself, but that version of myself is gone. It's gone. I'm not that person anymore. I'm different. I've had different experiences. I've had different things happen to me. And now I'm in this 2026 version. So I give myself grace in that way where I'm like, you know what? That 2025 version of me didn't have to go through the struggles of the version of 2026 that I went through. And that is where when you're trying to battle yourself, you have to kind of give yourself a little bit of grace as well. Where I might not be as focused, as locked in, as good as I was in 2025, but also I've had a lot more things happen to me this year. I've had bad and negative things that have happened to me this year, which didn't happen to me last year, which are maybe affecting my goals and my things now. So you have to kind of give yourself something like, let me put it into a perspective here, is that you change and you're a changing individual and we're always evolving. And that is something that doesn't really get put into a credit of things where when I originally did this episode, I did this episode audio only. I was talking about, because I'm a big fight fan. You're going to hear me always kind of on Motivational Mondays bring up kind of sports people because I think they're some of the best people to bring up for mentality and athletics and everything like that. And that's going to be Prime McGregor. Everybody's like Prime McGregor. Prime McGregor's gone because he's a different human being now. He's got a wife. He's got kids. He's got the money. It's a whole different scenario from now till then, if that makes any sense. It's a entirely different vibe now. And that is you with yourself. You are not going to be the same person you were last year, but what you can do is you can take inspiration from your own self. You'd be like, I like that I did this and that. Let me try to implement that in my game. I like that, I was a little bit more disciplined last year. Let me get more back into my disciplined state. But with that being said, I also didn't have the same problems I have now. Again, you look at McGregor from 10 years ago, he didn't have a kid. He didn't have the money. It was a different mindset. It was different. Now that he has that, the internal conflict is different. It's a different, entirely scenario. And that is when it's you versus you, you have to kind of look at the pros and cons. Have I improved from last year to this year? I would say, for me, a little bit. I feel like I was a little bit more focused and locked in last year, but this year I also went through more. I've had more hardship and more to come back from. You know, I started this year off with the flu. From December 24th, Christmas Eve, to December 31st, I had the flu. And I know you're like, well, you had the flu that long. But then I was exhausted for mainly the month of January, so I wasn't working out. I went on a vacation in between there too, so I wasn't working out before then. So then my whole thing's thrown off. Now I got to come back from that. That's something I have to fight back from, and that was the start of my year. And then other things have happened along the way that I won't, particularly get into in this video, but that's that's the difference. That version of Aaron didn't go through that. I went through that, and I had to fight back and get back to a good state of mind. Aaron didn't have the hardship of 2025. So, but when I look at myself of 2023 to 2025, I'm like, I would blow the 2023 version of me out of the water. Like, I was doing it all wrong back then. Now I'm so much better than I was then. Now I'm better from the 2025 to 2023. So am I better from 2026 to 2025? 2024, I'm better. My 2025 year was better than 2024. So that is kind of where I would look at things. And you could do this by week. You can do this by month of looking at where you were at, enjoying it, embrace it. Look at it as a nostalgia thing, but don't try to become that version of you again because you're a different person now. And that's kind of important because we're always evolving. We're always different. Things that you maybe did back then aren't going to work the things you do now. Like I said, maybe a year ago you didn't have a kid. Now you have a kid. Now it's a completely different scenario. Now I'm focused on this. This has come in. This has changed my life now. And it happens. It happens to everybody where the responsibility from last year to this year is different. I have more responsibility than I do now than I did then. I'm older now than I was then. I've experienced more things. I'm smarter. I'm more intellectually there. And I've seen things more now than I did then. So you can kind of go in and just kind of nitpick, but it's always look to improve. And that's what I always look to do. And that's how I always kind of challenge myself is look to improve. Look to improve each and every day. Don't look at it as a negativity of what you don't or do have. Be grateful for the things that you have gratitude. And that's something I try to work on myself, that I don't think I had gratitude as much as I have gratitude maybe right now in this moment. I've had more gratitude than I did the previous 6 months, and that's something I tried to work on. Let me be grateful for the things that I have. It's always I want, but let me enjoy what I have now. Let me enjoy the things that I have and let me embrace that and let me get back to more of a state. And that's something last year where I felt I was a little bit more positive than this year. This year I felt I've been a little bit more negative. But let me go in there. Why was I so positive? And again, I look at it was just a different time in your life. So I would look at that as inspiration. I would look at yourself from the past, look at inspiration. If you think you did something better then, try to implement it now. Look and see what you've done and how you've done it. But again, everything's always changing. You're always a changing individual. And you are the metric. How are you rating yourself? How are you doing it? For me, finally getting this done, finally getting videos, having the name, having everything this close to being done was huge for me because it's taken me so long to finally get to this position. And then that, as well as December, I was going to start it up in January. My goal was to do this in January, and it's June. I got sick, and then I got work, and then it became busy, and then I kept delaying. Now I'm finally here, and now I'm doing it. So it's a big accomplishment, and I'm really excited to finally get this going here. And it's a fresh perspective. Again, like I've seen other people out there, oh, you can look at what someone else has and you can try to go and beat them. And I'm saying, look at your own self. Look at your own self. I think that's the best, is internal reflection. Where have you gone wrong? What are the mistakes that you have made? Rewrite those. Everybody loves a comeback story. Everybody loves a comeback story. Everybody. You got to come back. If you've had it negative and you had a negative year, I felt like I've had a pretty negative year myself. I got to come back. I got to come back from that. And that's what excites me. Because I know I can. Because I've done it before. But that version of me, the stuff I did then to come back, is not going to work this time around. So I always try to internally reflect, and that's what and that's I think the most important thing of this whole thing is look at yourself, you versus you, and that always should be the number one. If you want to look at it, I always try to look at it in the way of, I want to always learn something. I'm always like, ooh, how did they do that? They went and they accomplished something that maybe I didn't accomplish. I don't look at that as a negative. I look at that as a positive mindset of, this person went out there and did this thing. You know, I'm not a UFC fighter, but I can take inspiration from that. I can take inspiration from a Justin Gaethje or Ilia Topuria or a Conor McGregor, and take an inspiration. Even if you want to go Alex Pereira, you can go any of those guys. You can just look at them, where they came from, the position they are in now, and look at how they got there. You can look at your own self as inspiration as well. Look at, I'm going to, once this year is over and I look at 2027, maybe I have just an absolutely peachy 2027. I'm like, man, that 2026 me was in a dark spot because of all the things that have happened. Look at me now. And that's always, the storm never lasts forever. And that's the good part. And that is where it's you versus you, because you could sit there and let the negativity and let the hate or the self-loathing, maybe let your own self let you down. Like, oh, I've had a bad year. You know, that's an excuse for me to go do that. Or you could sit there 10 toes deep and look at where you can improve and look at your own self and own reflection. I'm kind of getting a little bit redundant with a lot of it. It became a little bit redundant there because I don't know how. I'm trying to make sure I cleared everything. But I'm so excited this is finally up. I'm excited to have you guys here. I'm excited. And these are going to be motivational Mondays, only motivational days. So if you stuck around this long, every other day I'm going to be talking about something different. Motivations are going to be on Monday. Reason for that being is because who likes Monday? I know I don't. I know I'm not a big fan of Monday. But I look Monday as an opportunity. I look at it as in a self-reflection. That week, didn't have a good week. Monday comes around, I'm going to have a good week. I'm going to have a good week now. And that's kind of how I look at it, where I look at it from, if I look at it as in a way of, from Monday to Sunday, there were some things I did that I didn't particularly like. Maybe I was too negative. Maybe I had a crash out. Maybe I slacked off a little bit more on my working out, or maybe I wasn't as disciplined, whatever the case may be. I look at that. We take film notes. We take notes. We study the opposition, as in Aaron, and then we go out there the next week and we try to go and do things better. And I think I got to do it even a little bit more. I got to self-reflect a little bit more in myself instead of, get a little bit tougher on myself. Look at where did I go wrong? And then I always kind of do that. I'm always kind of self-analyzing where, and it's almost to a detriment where maybe I'm too harsh on myself, but it's almost like, okay, I did this and I don't like that. I don't like that I did that. I don't like that I crashed out here. That embarrassed my own self. I feel embarrassed that I did that. Let me make sure I don't do that again. Let me go out there and let me really study things and let me really get down to brass tacks. And that's what I want. I want to be able to, I'm not going to say I know everything, because I don't. But I want to bring something for you guys, and I'm a fun, jokey character, as I'm sure you've seen just little brief snippets here and there. But mainly in most of my content will be fun, lighthearted, joking. But I wanted to bring something of substance. I wanted some people to come here and learn a little something for the younger generation. Because it's different. Because people from the 80s and the 90s, I look at that and it's like they never went through this kind of particular issue where you can see everybody online, all these millionaires, all these kids doing better than you, and it becomes a negative kind of state. And I think that that's a lot of what's happening here. Is it's a negative state where you kind of just get negative and bogged up on everything that you see on the Instagram. And I'm coming here, discipline yourself, and you're going to feel, and you're going to build confidence if you lift weights. And this is if you were starting from zero. If not, you could take upon this self, and there's going to be people out there that it's a battle with you the most than it is with anybody else. Because I'm telling you right now, the people that got to where they are sat there, and the people that got to where they were at probably fought themselves and didn't really care about what other individuals had or didn't have. And that's what I'm trying to bring a fresh take. I've seen a lot of the motivational scene, and I feel like they don't touch the things. They don't touch the things where Goggins is in his 50s. Somebody, I won't go, I listened to unsavory characters then that I really enjoyed that now I'm like, I can't believe I listened to that. That was embarrassing. And that would be that 2023 version of me, where I'm like, I listened to that stuff and I'm listening to it now. I'm like, I don't believe any of that because I've gotten older and I have different opinions and I've formed to different things. So I wanted to give a fresh take on this, something different and something for maybe younger people to look at as an okay, where he didn't know what he wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I became a podcaster. So this is a little bit at the end here. It's like an epilogue to a book where I'm kind of just giving a little tidbits here and there, but I want to give a fresh take to the scene. My point that I was trying to touch that I'm kind of, for some reason, just skirting around. The point that I'm trying to touch is I'm young, and I think that the Gen Z can maybe relate to me a little bit more than the Gen X. Gen X are, most of the people I listen to are from the Gen X generation. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. I'm saying in the concept of, seeing all the things you see on social media, seeing people do better than you, and it's just different now with the motivation. There's a lot more distractions, a lot more happening now. It's different. How is somebody my age or how is somebody in that age group handling it? I'm not going to say I handle it well whatsoever. And I'm not trying to come off as larger than life. I'm trying to come down as more of a down to earth, here to hear what other people say. I would love to hear everyone's take in the comments below. And the whole goal for me is to kind of create a community here. That's what I would love to see, is we just kind of create a community of people that want to have a good time Tuesday through whatever other days I upload, or Tuesdays through every other days that I upload. You're here for a good time, but if you also want to take something along the way with you, Mondays are a great time to talk, discuss, learn things, and everything like that. Always trying to get better, always trying to improve, and that is what the War Within is all about. And that is what I want to make sure I touch this video with. It's always you versus you. And I always look at it as you versus you. It's always is you versus you. It's never you versus this person. You don't know what's going on with this person over here. All you can do is you can get up every day, work the hardest that you can, and ultimately reach the goals that you want to reach. I'm very excited. This is going to be great. It's going to be great Motivational Mondays. I got so many planned. And these are just things that I've kind of discovered within where I've gone. Like the next one I want to talk about enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, and things like that. So I have a lot planned here. Very interesting topics. And I would love to hear feedback from everybody, man. Whatever you guys think, whatever you guys mentality, I'm always looking to adjust and see what works and what doesn't work. And I'm really excited for this. Hope you guys all enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one.